Today we're going to actually do a couple of things. We're going to wrap up the project started earlier this week, well, I suppose just yesterday, the data timestamper utility. And that's just going to be a couple things. We're going to allow the user to upload a file, and I'm sort of in the middle of that right now. You can see I'm sort of adding some forms here. I think the most of the rest we have to do is just some coding. And we're going to be using, again, Bo's work on that. Bo made an update to his repo, so I'm going to be sort of copying this logic over to our web page. And then I'm also going to work on outputting the status for each step of the background process, because when we click upload in our thing here, it just seems to be doing nothing for a little while, and then finally the IPFS goes through, and then you click on MetaMask. But since it's sort of a multi-step process, it'd be nice to output the process, the progress on that process. So that's what we'll be doing, and then after that, I'm going to just jump right into the design. We'll probably do a break in the middle of these two big items. And then after the break, I'm going to start designing and just describe what I plan to build with you guys for sort of the final project of this session of seminars. I'm pretty excited about the project, and I'm actually going to switch to webcam and bring on a whiteboard and start just sort of draw up the whole system, because it is a little bit more ambitious than what we've been building so far. So yeah, that's what we will be doing. Was there something else I wanted to say? I don't remember now, but yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So I guess we'll just jump right into this first item here. So what I can do is I can go to, here's my code here. I'm going to bring up my thing here, and I've already made some changes. So just to go over that, I'm just going to go do a git diff, and just to help me remember what all I've changed. I guess the first thing is I've changed on the index just some, let's see, down here, I made this class a row, and I made this class a call small, call small 6, and if you'll recall, or if you already know this is Bootstrap, then that's just making each of these divs take up half of the available space horizontally, and that is how we've gotten this these two blocks side by side. The layout's the same. One's for uploading a string, one's for uploading a file. So that's that change. Whoops. What else we got here? I'm changing around these functions in the index, and I'm also sort of in the middle of that. I've taken out the logic that once we've done an upload to IPFS, we take the hash and we give it to the contract to log. So I've taken all that and put it in its own function, and because we'll need separate functions to upload the string to the IPFS and upload a file to IPFS. And you can see this one's complete, although I haven't tested it yet. But assuming there's no bugs, this should do what we had it doing last seminar, which is to take a string, upload it to IPFS, which calls this function here, which is right here, and then we give it an IPFS hash handler, and we passed that a function that eventually leads to our log IPFS hash to timestamper. So unfortunately, it's a little scrambled here with the function. So probably the first thing I do after I wrap up, well, this is pretty much wrapped up, so I guess the first thing I'll do right away is probably just reorganize some of these functions, just to make it a little clearer what we're doing, maybe even rename some stuff. So I'll just jump right into that. I'm going to minimize this. We don't need to worry about that function. That's just to display the IPFS logs, which I don't want to mess with that yet. And then let's see, we have upload string to IPFS, log IPFS hash to timestamper. So this one Assuming there's no bugs, it's done. So I'm actually going to bring this up and sort of get it out of our way. I didn't change any of the logic here. The only thing I really did is like I said, I sort of pulled it out into its own function. It takes the data type, the name, and the hash, and then as you can see, it just sort of encodes that data and then calls our make timestamp function on our contract with and then it adds the transaction output object to our transaction list, which we can see. Oh, actually, it doesn't. Well, it doesn't show up here because there are no transactions in this load. Anyway, so I'm just going to minimize that and assume it's working. Now, the other functions we have here, again, ignoring this last one, we have upload string to IPFS, upload string and timestamp, upload file and timestamp. So that's not very clear what those function names are doing, and honestly, I'm a little confused myself. So I'm going to work through this and probably rename some stuff here. Let's see, upload string to IPFS. This looks like, so this is the function that actually calls the IPFS function. And then upload string and timestamp, upload file and timestamp. So these are the functions that I'm writing that sort of wraps around the whole thing. So upload string timestamp will call the upload string IPFS function and then also call this one afterwards. So that's what those two do. And to make, let's see, I guess before worrying about renaming, I'm just going to put upload file to IPFS. So we'll have these two functions, upload string to IPFS, upload file to IPFS, and then we'll have these two functions, upload string and timestamp, upload file and timestamp. So those will be two pairs of functions that we'll be defining. I guess those names are fine. They don't feel confusing to me now that I've gone over them. They're just kind of unclear at first. I guess maybe as I work through this, better names might occur to me. Anyway, okay, so as I said, this one should be functional. The only thing we need to do now is to define this function here, and again we're going to be using Bo's code here, which I linked to. Well, that's the page. I'm going to close that. Close that. I linked to this in my last post. I'll just go ahead and link to this one again. And this is the actual change. Let's see. Change to support files. Okay. All right. So it looks like our IPFS.add function used to take this was just a string, and now we're going to actually have to pass it the result of a reader, which we have to sort of set up beforehand here. So and we already have the file picker here. We can choose file, it'll open up, but it won't. Then we'll click this, and then it'll actually handle that file somehow. So let's look at the code here and just copy it over, some bits of it. So upload file to IPFS. So we're going to assume that the file picker's already been used. So yeah, we're just going to start copying some of this stuff. I'm going to view, get all this, and copy it. I'll probably take some arguments later, but for now I'm just going to paste it in here. So document.getElementById. Let's see what we actually called it. I called it a file source in mine, so that's what I'm going to call it here. And we're grabbing the first file of a list. So it looks like when you click this button, I'm guessing then you can choose multiple. Well, I'm not able to choose multiple now, but looks like you can choose multiple files, or at least that's how this this file picker API sort of works. But let's get back to our code. All right, so we have our file here. We make a reader out of it, and then we want to assign a function to our onload end. And so here in his code, he has it calling this function, which we could probably do something similar. I'm just getting a little nervous again about how all of our names are going to be a little weird. I guess we could also just define the function anonymously right here in this function. At least then the code will be grouped together. Function like this, and then we'll just take all this code here. Put some semicolons in. And so once again, we're eventually getting to an IPFS.add bit here. Let's see. We have the reader. We've assigned the reader here. For each function file. I'm not sure what this for each is doing here. It looks like the result is a list, which I'm not sure about that. Also not sure why these semicolons are missing. And then instead of displaying this file hash, we actually want to handle it. And to do that, we're going to call our function log IPFS hash to timestamper. And we want to give it the data type, the name, and the hash. So the data type, another change I made is that I changed what I'm tagging the type as to IPFS string down here, and here I'm going to put IPFS file. And then we want a name, and for that we're going to grab the name from our view again, and I actually just realized I have to change some names around because I actually have two versions of this now. So if we go look at I have two name bits here. I'm going to also change around this a little bit. So instead of making this variable here, I'm going to take that out and just put it here, window.app. What did I call it? Called it name input, but we're going to have to rename that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this is going to be string name input. And then here, window.app.file name input. Okay, that looks fine. Our structure's a little weird. It's very weird. Because on our upload string and timestamp, Oh, well, we don't have this one yet. Okay, never mind. Oh, here's the difference. So if I want to be consistent, I should be passing a handler this function. So I'm going to do that IPFS handler. And IPFS hash handler. Now, where did I define this? Man, this code is a little confusing. My apologies, guys. Oh, right, it's here, and upload string to IPFS is called here with our function here. Right, okay. So upload string to IPFS and upload file to IPFS, they each take an IPFS handler. The upload string also takes the string. Our upload file will just grab that from the document itself, and they call the IPFS .add function, and one uses the file, one uses the string, and then they each will eventually call the IPFS handler. It's looking a little weird because we're defining the callback here for when onload end is done, and that's when we call the IPFS hash handler that was passed to it, and that's what we're doing here as well. It just looks a little weird because we're defining we're just doing a little bit of code after this, but this handler is actually called after it's all done. Okay, so now these are each being called as part of the wrapping function here. So if we look at the upload string and timestamp, it's what calls the upload string to IPFS right here, and it passes the handler, which in the case of a string is log IPFS hash to timestamper with a IPFS string. It's calling the upload string to IPFS. And then passing this as the handler. So that's what we're going to do here. We can skip this data to upload because our upload file to IPFS that function will get the file itself. And here we're going to pass the file name input and then IPFS hash. Okay, now before we can test that out, we need to actually change, so string name, oops. And then go to our HTML and make sure we are naming these inputs accordingly. I should probably change this name too. 495. I don't think... Oh, it does look like it somehow. What's happening here? Oh, yep. This should all be indented because that's part of the callback. Like so. And then this one. I think we don't need that ending parentheses there. Okay. Yep, good catch on that. Okay, now so we change the upload string input. I just need to make sure that that used to be upload input. Okay, I feel a bit scrambled, so I suspect that I've really there's probably something wrong with this, but I have done everything I can think of. So I guess I can go ahead and try to. I guess first I'll just try to upload a string and just see if that still works. Well, very first I'll just refresh and see if we have any errors, which we do. So file name input is not defined at index.js14. File name input is, oh, I need to actually give it a thing like that. Refresh again. Okay, no errors. Let's try to upload a string. I guess I should first unlock MetaMask. Okay. And comp reference error. Upload and timestamp is not defined. Right, and it's on our HTML. So our button has an old reference. So this should be upload file and timestamp. This one should be upload string and timestamp. Okay, no errors. That's good. So that probably indicates that the IPFS upload is going on. We should see, okay, we got the hash, so that's stored. And the Web3 stuff seems to be working still. And there's our transaction. So yeah, that all looks good. We could watch this. We could sit here and watch this on Etherscan, but if it submitted the transaction, I doubt that there's an error in the transaction since we didn't really touch any of the Web3 code or the contract. So I'm just going to assume that'll go. I'll keep it up. We'll check back on it later. But that looks good. Okay, so now let's try the file upload. So back to our same page. We're going to give it a name now. Which I don't even know what file I'm going to upload. I don't want to upload a video because that would take forever. I'll just upload a text file called More Thoughts. Sorts of stuff. Save that on my desktop as More Thoughts.txt. And then go down here, choose file, and desktop, More Thoughts. Okay, so now let's see what this does. And we got an error, not too surprising. Upload file to IPFS is not defined. 109. This is not defined. What am I trying to call here? Trying to call this, I guess, but upload file to IPFS is not defined. It seems to be defined right there. upload. Oh, there must be a difference here. Oh, IFPS. That's the problem. IPFS. Okay. Let's try again. Okay, well, once again, no errors, so that's cool. Let's see how our transaction here is doing. Got a success here, that's cool. So I can close that. Now you'll notice it didn't show up down here. That's because this one is still filtering our, well, not, I shouldn't say filtering, because it's not a Web3 filter, but it's looking for files with the old tag of IPFS, and we changed the tag to IPFS file and IPFS string, so I'll have to change that code too. And Bo did tell me that when you upload a file it takes longer, so we'll just give it a second here. I guess while we're waiting I can go and change that that code that populates our list down here. So here, now somewhere in here we look for, yeah, if parse data type equals IPFS. So I guess what I could do is I could do begins with. I think there's a JavaScript function that does that, so JavaScript string begins. Starts with, that's pretty easy, okay. It's string dot starts with, okay. So if we can do datatop dot starts with, another thing you could do is you could actually display this differently. Depending on whether it's IPFS string or IPFS file, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now this still seems to be uploading unless there's an error. I guess what I want to do is, since it is taking so long, I'm going to go back here, go to our code that we're waiting on, and put in some logs. So which is pretty basic, just to see what's actually going on here, make sure we're not just waiting on nothing for no reason. And then we go to IPFS hash handler, which is upload the file and timestamp right here. I know these numbers are going to be way out of order, but we'll at least be able to see what's going on here. So refresh. More thoughts. Now you can see our second one did show up here. Oh, and last seminar this was not working. You can see now that it will work, and that was just because I had misnamed a variable. So those work well now. Anyway, choose file, more thoughts, and upload and timestamp. Okay, so we got a 1 and a 2. So we got here and here, which means that we've defined this onload end callback, and we started the read. We called the read as array buffer. Nothing else yet, and we didn't get to this result, but we also didn't get an error because that would be logging as well. So I guess we're just waiting for this, because if this this function had been called, we would get either the output from the error or our logs down here. So I guess it's still going. I don't know what else to assume. And Bo did tell me it would take longer. He said 5 or 10 seconds, I think is what he said. Just 10 seconds for, yeah, that's what Bo was saying. It just only took him 10 seconds. I don't really know what else to change though. I guess I could, one test I could do is just to go to Bo's code here. localhost, and just see if his code, which I did not mess with, can upload a file. So we'll just try that. So if we don't see this show up in a little bit, I guess we'll just have to assume it's something maybe to do with my internet connection. We're dealing with IPFS. Okay, so now that did work. So I don't know what's going on here, and still nothing in mine. Well, the file worked on yours, and it did not work on. Well, you're probably seeing the stream late, but as you can see, the file worked on yours. It did not work on mine. So that's got to mean there's some error in my code. What seems weird is that I guess let's just see if this is even being. We haven't used 7 yet, right? Well, I mean, I guess that means that the, oh, you know what? Well, no, to store, that's defined. I'm not sure what the error is here. I'm tempted to move on and mark this for something to look into later. Yeah, I don't know really what else to do. I mean, reader equals new window dot file reader. I guess we can just do that and take a look at, see if it looks like it is. File name. I mean, that all looks fine. So I don't really know what else to do here. I think I'm just going to move on and maybe come back to that later and make an update for you guys. Yeah, unless you guys have another idea. Under IPFS add. Yes, that's a good idea. Not under. Well, this isn't even being called. This number 7. So this onload end callback is never actually even being called. So certainly, if I put some down here, it won't go because our log 7 is never even being called. Just 1 and 2, which indicates that this function is going through. But it's not. This onload end is never happening. Maybe this function. Oh, you know what? I bet this might be kind of messing us up. I bet this should just be like that. I'm not sure, but let's just give that a shot. Oh. Something. Oh, that's just me typing. Okay. Choose more thoughts. Upload. Okay, well, we got a 7. Okay, so that's all it was. So that was my fault. I had this thing in there. That was just left over from a different notation. I changed it to just defining the function as an anonymous function. So that works. And first argument must be a string buffer on index 311. My index isn't even that long. It must be a different index, I guess, it's talking about. Yeah, these are different indexes. But it's telling me that the first argument must be a string buffer, array, or array-like object. Which means that it doesn't think this is anything. Well, back to another error. Must be a string buffer. Well, what is it? I mean, it sure looks like a buffer. This first argument here. Did I not save? That's not even logging that now. I logged 1, 2, and 7. Oh, wait a minute. I guess it's an error on this line here. Okay. Undefined. Reader.result is undefined. Okay, well, we get to 2. So we get to this line and then this line before we even get in here, and we call reader.read as array buffer. We might need to make reader a oh, yes. That makes sense. Right. Yeah, because we were defining this function as reader being an argument, and then we were writing this function as if we were trying to use reader from here. So that makes sense. Okay, lots of bugs. This looks much better. No errors anyway. So in a second we should see it output a hash and ask for a MetaMask signature approval. Hey, there we go. Cool. I'm glad we were able to solve that bug. Awesome. Cool. So what am I doing? I want to go to Robston, just check on it. Although if it gave us a transaction ID, I'd be surprised if this failed. We're just still calling that same contract function. So yeah, when this mines, then we should be able to, I'm going to close that, should be able to see, we'll refresh and see it down here too with my silly name here, and we'll see a file on IPFS. So, cool. I'm going to take out all these console.logs. We don't need a lot of this. We can take this, put it back in here. Take out that semicolon. Take out all my my scrambling attempts to get that bug fixed. Is this mined yet? It's mined. So now if we refresh, we should see it down here on the list. Cool. All right, so that's finally that first item here crossed off. Apologies for my bugs there. Took a while to get. Now this part should be pretty easy. We just want to, I guess we'll need to create a section in the HTML that outputs the status. And yeah, and we'll need to create a little area in the HTML, and then we'll have to just modify the value that's being outputted different stages of our process. So that shouldn't take too long. Let's go into the HTML. So here's our forms, and here's our transaction outputs. I guess I'll do it before this. Nope, I'm just copying blindly here. So I'm going to make this 8, so it's a little bit smaller horizontally. We'll just do a name of a variable, which we'll have to go and define. Make that a T. Could change the color. I'm not going to worry too much about it now. Okay, let's go to our app. Add that variable in. And we'll give it an initial waiting for data file or string. And then we just need, well, I guess first of all, let's just make sure it shows up in a way that isn't too ugly. Oh, I need to put a well in there. Equals. Nope, how did I define that? Well small. Whoa, that's a bit weird. What is going on here? I guess here I separate from a main block and the well, so let me do that. I don't know why it's not. Oh, it's because I'm defining it as a small column without padding it effectively. So out of 12 columns, we're using up 8. So I'm going to put 2 on either side. Okay, so we have an output there. Now let's just change it based on what's going on. So I'm going to close this again. We don't need to worry about that one. And so the first thing that'll be called is, well, our buttons will call, what do our buttons call? Upload file and timestamp and upload string and timestamp. So this will be the first one. Equals upload string and timestamp. Okay. And then here, after we actually have the IPFS hash, well, let's see. And then we go here. And then we'll add a thing here. Okay, so now it would be nice if we could say waiting on transaction to mine, and then update it when it's actually is mined. I don't know if I really want to spend that time. We're already almost an hour into our stream here, and I do want to get sort of quickly to the design and description of the next week's project. So let me just see if what I've done so far works. So let's just do a string. Okay, uploading string to IPFS. I guess I should put a header on here saying status or something, or maybe color the make the font a different color. Okay, that all looks good. One last thing I'm going to do is just make it, I'm going to make this an empty string, and then I'm going to have the HTML actually hide it if there's no empty string, and that way when you click on a button this will pop up and it'll be a little clear that that's some sort of output. So I guess here is our thing here. Show equals window.app dot output doesn't equal nothing. Whoa, what's going on? Oh yeah, this is, I don't need the window.app because this is part of views processing. Try again. Try again. Just trying to think of something cheeky. It's not very cheeky, but okay, so then that pops up, so that's cool. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna call this done. Guess I'll wait here. And so now, what's interesting is this could be used to actually the same sort of mechanism that we used to build this could be used to make a chat utility. And I mentioned this, I think, last week, but it's kind of interesting that we're using the testnet to do all of this processing. We're effectively getting this processing for free because we can go get the testnet tokens whenever we want. And since we don't depend on the units of ether on this this use case of timestamping something doesn't depend on the value of ether. We're not trying to trade value anywhere. But so that means we're actually using the testnet. We could use the testnet for a production level purpose. As I said last week, I think that'll eventually lead to the testnet being sort of, I don't know, bogged down with real use cases because there's not any actual money being made by the miners. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to call this done. I'm going to go ahead and process off here. Come on now. I don't know why that's not working. There we go. Okay, so let's take a 5 or 6 minute break. I'm gonna stop the stream, stop recording. I'm gonna actually set up a whiteboard and go over the design and the description of the project that we'll finish out the session with over the tomorrow and Friday of this week, and then over the next week. So yeah, all right. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. I'll start up the stream. We'll say 19:05, so that'll be about 8 minutes.